There's no stopping this matchup till someone walks out of the cage. Chains of Jimmy Snuka. Brian Pillman will stoop to any depth to gain victory. Shamrock has obsessed all week in wanting to hurt the Bulldog. Shamrock has lost it. Lost it. He's hurt. Nelson walking down through the people. Good luck with the official. Maintaining order in this one. Circumference versus the city. And that's what happens when you mess with LOT.
There is nothing between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. I am here to be an impartial referee.
Andy Michaels has had enough.
This is the Pro Wrestling Reflection Podcast with your host, the Professor Chalbelo Veracruz.
What a run!
Mr. Wonderful Tommy Wonder.
And I will take the powers of those that have no fear!
And the prodigal one, JB.
The queen, yeah. The cream of the crop.
Now it's time to go back in time in the time machine.
The American dream! That's too sweet!
The living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo! Look at this. I don't believe it.
What is going on there, Reflectionites? What is going on to the Magnificent Seven? Yes, 2 in a row. We're not taking no more hiatuses. Well, we might take another hiatus in the near future, but you know what? We are enjoying the hot days of summer. We are enjoying the last days of August. We are going to get into that Labor Day weekend. But before we get into that Labor Day weekend, Reflectionites and the Magnificent 7, Elite 8, Naughty 9, Terrific 10, Essential 11 here at the PWR Networks at piledriver.com. We got to end August the right way on the weekend. Yes, SummerSlam happened the previous week, so the professor here, the oh-so studious one, the oh-so magnanimous one, but most importantly, the oh-so glorious one, the objective man that I am, thought, hey, why don't we do a SummerSlam hangover edition here at the PWR Podcast, at the PWR Networks at podbeam.com. My man with the grandstand, 100 grand or whatever the force says it, he said, yes, let's do a SummerSlam hangover edition here too. You know, he was eating like fishes, he was eating like crap on the Dum Dum Duels, and then he took his Pepto-Bismol, and now he is ready to talk about the SummerSlam hangover edition here at the PWR Podcast. He's your friend of mine, the liberal conservative, the conservative liberal, your friend and mine, Mr. Dum Dum Duel himself, Mr. Wonderful Tommy Strong, a.k.a. the Tommy Wonder. How are you doing? It's the last days of August, my friend. We're rushing into, September. We're rushing into Labor Day, and sooner or later we blink, it's going to be fall and then winter and then the apocalypse.
Leo rushing. I absolutely, see, here's where I am. I don't know if I should say summer bunny, because I think that's a term used for chicks, but I'm a summer person. And the fall, I don't hate it, but the problem is, like, if the fall came before the summer, like everything about it, the weather and everything else, except for opposite, you know how fall starts out hot and then gets cold? It started off cold and gets hot like spring, except for there's one problem with spring. It's wet and nasty because of all the damn snow melting. However, if you took the fall and put it before summer and put the spring after it, summer, then fall would be my favorite seasons, followed by spring, because I don't care. And winter, I loathe. I loathe it. I don't know how you feel over there in New Jersey. I was in Florida in January of this year. I absolutely, at some point, want to live somewhere where the low for the year is 60 degrees and they don't know what snow is. I hate it. However, here in Michigan, people love the fall. My two things about the fall that I do like, football and hockey. So that's my consolation. When it starts getting, the days get shorter, starts getting a little colder. By the way, it's 90 degrees today, so today ain't one of them. But I think, well, at least hockey starts soon. At least football's going. And, you know, even the World Series, I'm not a big baseball guy. It's my third sport out of the four. But I enjoy the playoffs for baseball. I think the World Series specifically is exciting. But football, hockey, basketball, I watch the playoffs. I don't watch regular season. That's a lot of sports to be watching, all three of them at the same time. But I am tired all the time, and the SummerSlam hangover is perfect because I'm still hungover from SummerSlam. Not because I watched it live. I did watch it Saturday, but Sunday I was on a boat all day long drinking. So
that's
still
good.
hurting.
Of course, that's what it is with this SummerSlam Hangover edition. However you watch SummerSlam Reflection Nights, it doesn't matter. If you watched it in a bar like a WWF New York, like we talked about on the last edition of the PWR Podcast, more power to you. If you watched it at the comfort of your home with your buddies, drinking and all that stuff, eating, buffalo wings and all that stuff, and you watched it on the Peacock for $10 a month, God, more power to you. But anyway, here at the PWR Podcast, we are going to talk about a very special SummerSlam here. We're going to talk about SummerSlam 1997. And, the funny thing about this, TW, is that 1997 was really the changing of the wrestling business per se, perception-wise. Remember, we're already within the Monday Night Wars, no doubt about that. WCW is, halfway there on the 83-week dominance between Nitro and Raw. We're not gonna, we could talk about all that stuff here too. So why I'm saying it's the precipice for WWF is because they're starting that attitude, but they haven't called it the attitude yet. They're forging along by hanging their careers. They're hanging their dollars. They're hanging their marketing on things like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin 316 is going crazy. Bret the Hitman Hart has one of the most unique angles or gimmicks, whatever you want to call it, where he's a heel in the United States, but he is a hero everywhere else in the world. We have the emergence of Triple H. After winning King of the Ring in 97, he's starting to elevate his career. We have Mick Foley. The phases of Mick Foley are starting to show here because, as an ECW fan, as a fan of Cactus Jack, I was not too keen on the Mankind gimmick. But just like this pay-per-view here, we saw a glimpse of not only Cactus Jack, but we saw a glimpse of a man named Mick Foley. And we will talk about certain matches within this episode here at the PWR Podcast. But August 3rd, 1997, TW, at the Continental Airlines Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey, a.k.a. the Meadowlands Arena. You know what's weird about this? The last time that, there was a lot of political hang-ups here between WWF and the state of New Jersey. The last pay-per-view they did, or the last event that WWF did actually was 1989 SummerSlam at the Meadowlands, TW, if you did not know that. Now, with all the political hang-ups and maybe like taxation and maybe medical insurance clearances, WWF did not perform in New Jersey for almost a decade. It took Republican Governor Christine Todd Whitman to bring wrestling back to New Jersey. I just wanted to get that out of the way. But
and they gave her credit on the show.
Yes, they did. They gave her credit on the show.
Or title belt or something.
Well, whatever. Well, before Triple H gave the belts away like hand-me-downs, right? They gave like proclamations and deeds. But anyway, neither here nor there. But TW, 1997, just like I said, the business for WWF, this pay-per-view, changed the direction of a lot of wrestlers. And we will talk about them one by one in this particular event. What say you?
Yeah, but like for me, the the overwhelming thought watching it, and it's funny enough, I don't think I ever watched this live. Because 97, I was full on into it. And when I watched pay-per-views, it was before I started wrestling, when I actually got together with friends and watched them. And then when I was actually in the wrestling business, I didn't watch them as often unless I happened to be somewhere where it was on, with the exception of going to WrestleMania 13 in Chicago that year with a bunch of wrestlers. And then I had gone to a Royal Rumble, and I worked a Survivor Series, stuff like that. But watching it, it was kind of cool because I had to get my grip on where it was and who was what. And like I'm looking at Triple H, and I'm like, this is pre-DX. Like, I'm thinking DX is already around, and then Shamrock.
Actually, no. This is weeks before DX even incarnates.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking at this point DX is, for some reason, which I get. I remember after I watched it, Shawn Michaels was the babyface at that WrestleMania where he beat Bret. Actually, it was the next year I went to WrestleMania. No, it was that year.
Yeah, it was that year. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Was this the year Bret beat Austin, or was Austin the year before?
No, Bret beat Austin in the I Quit match at WrestleMania in Chicago. You was there.
That year.
Yes.
That was in 96.
That was 90. No, this is 97. You was there. Trust me. Trust the professor. The I Quit match.
96. It was 96.
No, it was 97.
97
Chicago.
Bret Shawn. 98 is Shawn Austin.
No, you're confused. You're confusing events. Reflection. You see what I'm dealing.
This is SummerSlam 97, right?
Right.
3 months later, Bret Hart is no longer in the WWF.
Right, but 3 months prior to that, Bret Hart beat Austin in the I Quit match, and they did the double turn. And you said it was the greatest.
So Shawn Bret was the year before Austin?
Right, in 96.
Okay. And then who was champion in 96? Undertaker Sid was the main event.
No, that was 97.
That's what I meant, 97.
Yes.
So Austin Bret wasn't, Shawn Bret wasn't the year before Shawn Michaels? Or
that
Austin?
was 96 Iron Man
I thought they were back-to-back years. So there's 2 years in between Austin and Bret. Shawn.
No. Okay. Here we go. 96 was the Iron Man between Michaels and Hart.
Right.
Hart and Austin was Survivor Series 96. WrestleMania 13 was I Quit match between Austin and Hart, and Undertaker winning the title where you was. And of course,
Sid.
Rock, right, from Sid. Then Survivor Series 97 was Michaels Hart 2.
Okay.
His last night.
My question was, I always thought Shawn Bret was 1 year.
Okay.
Shawn Austin was the next, but there's actually 2 years between.
A year and a half.
So Shawn wasn't at WrestleMania. No, how was there a year and a half between WrestleManias?
No, a year and a half between Michaels and Hart fighting.
No. Bret Hart versus Shawn at WrestleMania. The very next WrestleMania, I thought it was Shawn Michaels versus Austin, but it wasn't. It was the one after that.
Right.
Shawn
98.
wasn't at 97.
Right, 98.
Right. I always thought Shawn Bret, then Shawn Austin. But there's not. There's one in between. So it's Shawn Bret, Bret Austin, Austin Shawn. Those are the 3 WrestleManias. I'm on board now.
Okay.
But as I'm watching this, I'm realizing, oh, shit, Shamrock's new because Shamrock was the referee for Bret versus Austin. And then I'm like, Triple H is still blue blood. China's still a dude. But I'm looking at Bret, and I'm looking at Pillman and Bulldog, and I'm like, this is Bret's last title win. This is it. And he has no idea because the wheels are coming off the bus and Vince wants to save money and he lets him go to WCW. And next thing you know, WWF starts winning. So blame it on Bret. But really,
I wouldn't say blame it on Bret. I just, like I said, like in 97, the wheels are changing in a positive way for WWF when you see, the careers parallel with a lot of people within this card itself. Let's talk about at least one of the matches here where two guys' careers, take off, you could say. We will talk about the cage match between Dude Love or Mankind against Triple H here at the PWR Podcast. Now, the reason that I wanted to focus on this match is because, again, there's a maturation of a character in Mick Foley. Now, the funny thing is here, and this correlates, and I'm going to dedicate this to the executive producer, Big Ray Hernandez, who a couple of days ago, you know, he's really, a lot of people are really upset with Karrion Kross's look on Raw. He looks like a Centurion. He looks like the guy from Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. He looks like Lord Humongous from the 1980s that was Sid Vicious. You know, all this stuff, Reflectionites. And I'm not saying that I don't like Karrion Kross's look, but let's remember this here, because it actually correlates here, TW. Follow me here. And this is the ether to Big Ray Hernandez. And I'm sorry, Big Ray, but I have to do this. Now, I understand your let's say, venom. And you got every right to have venom towards Vince McMahon, towards Nick Khan, towards Triple H with this idea, or Kevin Dunn. I understand it. I understand all Reflectionites here. I'm not trying to shill for the WWF or WWE, whatever. But let's remember, TW and the Reflectionites, let's remember this. When Mankind, a.k.a. Mick Foley, came into the WWF, every hardcore fan, every fan, just like the Professor, remembered him as a character called Cactus Jack, either Cactus Jack or Cactus Jack Manson. Wherever you saw his character, whether it was World Class, whether it was in WCW, whether it was ECW, he carried that character everywhere around the world, TW. He had matches beyond match, you know, flaming tables matches, exploding matches. He made his money as the hardcore legend, TW. He comes into WWF. They, you know, of course they want to, you know, Vince McMahon wants to trademark a different name. They had different ideas. They wanted to call him Mankind. I was resistant, TW. I was like Big Ray Hernandez. I was very resistant. But hindsight is 20/20, TW. When a character flourishes himself, he's given the ball to kind of refine something that maybe he's not resistant towards. You know, as the old saying, you make lemons out of, you know, you make lemonade out of lemons and all that stuff. So while Karrion Kross, people don't like the look of Karrion Kross looking like Lord Humongous or looking like the guy from Mad Max, Big Ray and Reflectionites and the, you know, Magnificent Seven members. Remember this. Mankind was not a very receptive for hardcore fans either. And it took interviews. It took that special interview with Jim Ross to get deeper within the character of Mick Foley. So Mick Foley became a Hall of Famer. He became an icon with 3 different characters: Dude Love, Mankind, Cactus Jack, and of course, he lived out his dream of main eventing as himself, Mick Foley. He made money out of the name Mick Foley when it wasn't a money gimmick, TW. What say you? Was that an ether to everybody who's naysaying about Karrion Kross, or is that not an ether?
Well, like I said to him, you think Austin was happy being called the ringmaster? You think Ron Simmons was happy coming in as a teal Trojan horse? And then I forgot about Mankind, so I'm glad you used him. And here's the deal. Mankind, funny enough, I loved it straight away. I didn't like the dirty brown pants he wore, and I hated corporate Mankind, just for the record. But the actual gimmick of Mankind, for one, I loved Kane, the original Kane, before he took his stupid mask off, before he had Freddy Krueger burns and all that. Kane's gimmick and Mankind's worked. They worked with Paul Bearer. And then I don't even know that I knew right away it was Mick Foley, which is embarrassing because I hadn't met him, right? But then, because he talked with a completely different voice, he did the little rocking in the thing, and I don't think it took long, and I was like, holy shit, that's Cactus Jack. But I liked it, and I like Cactus Jack, right?
Right.
Don't really like Mama's Baby Boy, Mickey Foley. I hate Dude Love, but how awesome would it be if Tommy Wonder made it to the WWF and they called me fucking Pippi Longstocking, but for one night only, I got to be Tommy Wonder like I did in my backyard wrestling day. I would have lived for it. And I got videos of me as Tommy Wonder in the backyard, or the Wonder Man, if you will. So I think it's awesome. And as far as Karrion Kross, here's another thing. I didn't see it. I've seen the pictures that Ray keeps sending us and everything. But I know this. If you paid attention to NXT for the last month and a half, he changed his look every week on there. Like he was looking for a new look. 1 minute he's got like a Pete Dunne one arm fur thing on. Next you know, he's wearing the gladiator kilt.
He was trying to find an identifiable look for WWE.
I'm looking at these pictures right now. I don't mind it at all. I don't understand the helmet, but he took it off, right? It's not like he's in there as Lasertron or Max Moon. So at the end of the day, if all it takes, and I'm talking to you, Ray, if all it takes for you to get off of Karrion Kross's train is you don't like his gear, then you should have never liked John Cena. You should have never liked Roman Reigns. You should have never liked Cactus Jack. You should never like Chainsaw Charlie. You should never like anything. And I can't remember who it was recently. I don't know if we talked about it, but Terry Taylor told somebody, don't fight the system. And I can't remember who it was, but it was about the gimmick. Like Terry Taylor went about it wrong. I'll bet you if Terry Taylor could go back to 1988, 89 and do the best he could with the Red Rooster, we'd be talking about him differently than we are now. And he's a great dude. He's been around Border City Wrestling for 20 years, but he fought the system and lost. So LA Knight, all these guys getting these shit. LA Knight's a perfect example. I did not like him as Eli Drake. I didn't like him in Impact. I liked him even less on NWA. I love him in NXT to the point where I don't even care that he's called LA Knight anymore, right? Because he just took it and ran with it. I love Grimes, who was, what was his name in Impact?
Trevor Lee, which is a boring-ass name too, and now he's Cameron Grimes. I love that dude. I love that the $1 million gimmicks on him. Those two dudes just took what they were given and made more out of it. And those two are the future of NXT right there. They were the opening match, TakeOver. They're going to be the headliner against other people or maybe even against each other again. Those guys are, and I know Eli Drake's a little bit older, but it don't matter. AJ Styles is 43 years old or whatever he is. So Cross, I'll be honest with you. I think the guy needs a little color. I don't know why they take his girl away from him, but we all know Vince likes to separate couples. I don't get it. I don't know if he's trying to just weasel in on him like the old Carney promoters used to do in my day. But Karrion Kross with a little bit of red in his gear, I don't mind it at all. I think it helps him. I think it makes him look less boring. As a matter of fact, I've almost bought his figure many times. I can get it for like $17. Still haven't done it because it's such a blah character. Like just, you know, Sting with the Crow was a big fan, but when he started adding the Captain Crunch jacket, but he's got red in it along with the black and white, much better look when you throw a little color in there. So you know what? I don't understand. I think people like to get things need to be refined. Things need to be tweaked. It's not going to be the actual gimmick for anybody. This is not even about Cross. And I wanted to use Mankind as a great example. Like, again, I was resistant. But if you stay resistant to something you wish it was, if you're going to judge, like, if everybody judged Mankind because of Cactus Jack and ECW, then he would never be where he is right now as a Hall of Famer. We would actually just keep fighting it and wanted him to get out of WWF. That's the problem, because we're so resistant to characters or, you know, just a look or anything. Just change. If you're just resistant to that, then nobody, male or female, manager, midget, or whatever, will never get over in WWE. You'll just have to just watch AEW, which you'll just, you know, give it a pass on any kind of gimmick.
You love everything looking the same there anyway, so have at it.
Have at it. So let's talk about this match here because, you know, not Cactus Jack, but Mankind and Triple H are having the hot summer feud, you know. And again, another thing that people will complain about is the repetitiveness of Monday Night Raws. You know, these dudes were fighting each other on Raws. These dudes were fighting each other on pay-per-views, you know, like your in-your-house kind of pay-per-views. So this was actually the blow-off blue steel cage match, which you actually love. You always said you're a fan of the blue steel cage match. And this is a great way to open up SummerSlam 1997. What did you think about this match? And, of course, the spot of spots where Mankind lives out his childhood dream because, again, weeks before, he talked about it with JR. He said he hitchhiked all the way to Madison Square Garden. Whatever money he had in his wallet, he paid for a ticket to see Jimmy Snuka fight Don Morocco in a steel cage, and he was hooked to wrestling because of what Jimmy Snuka did. And to pay homage to a murderer, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's Dark Side of the Ring talk here. But anyway, to pay homage to Jimmy Superfly Snuka, he did he lived out it. He didn't fly off the top because he couldn't do that because he would have fell backwards. But he flew off the top as much as he could. He opened his shirt. He had the Dude Love symbol on his chest and did the flying elbow. What say you, TW, about this match?
That was awesome, and I guarantee he hurt for days after that on this hip. Or the adrenaline was so high he probably didn't hurt at all. But I'm going to tell you the sickest bump in that match was probably given to Cactus Jack by Triple H, but Triple H took the more brunt end of it. He superplexed him from the top of the cage. And guess what hurts the most in the wrestling ring? The corners. The spring is in the middle. So when you land in the corners, you're landing on plywood with a stupid high school wrestling mat over the top of it that has half the give, if not less, than the center of the ring does. And Triple H landed right in the damn corner because Mick Foley landed in the middle. And then
so you think he's got like a black and blue mark after that match?
100%. I think they both do.
That's true.
That back.
No, I did. I mean, that was a sick move.
Match, watch any wrestling match and listen to the sound difference when a guy takes a bump on the side of the ring versus a guy taking a bump in the middle of the ring. Like NXT does it a lot where they'll power bomb guys on the apron. That shit hurts, man. That's the corner. There's no give. The give is in the middle. Some WWE rings have a carriage where the whole thing goes up and down. But most rings, it's solid all the way around, and the middle point has literally like a hydraulic spring that goes down and back up when you take the bump, and that is the money spot to take your bump. When you take it in the corner, it hurts, dude. And to take it to superplex off the top of the cage, like Triple H was standing in the blue rungs, and Mick Foley was sitting on the top of it. Speaking of which, later on there was a superplex off the top rope where I found out Undertaker's a little bit bigger pitch than I thought he was because he almost backed out of taking that bump.
Well, we'll talk about it. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that later, but I just want to focus on, a great way to start off a pay-per-view, in my humble opinion. But again...
And it was the first cage match of the SummerSlam since Owen versus Bret a couple years earlier.
There you go. That's another great history with the SummerSlam pay-per-view history that from 94 to 97. Again, when you look at the WWF trying to, create stars, for the future... of course, Mankind is a little bit older. His body's brittle. We know this, TW. But for some strange reason, why did it click? Let's, hindsight's 20/20. But again, Vince McMahon, sometimes, he's wrong in certain aspects of storytelling. And sometimes he's wrong with marketing people in a certain way. But he was right in trying to accentuate. I want to use that word, accentuate Mick Foley's attributes and offering a human side to Mick Foley. He offered a human side to Mankind. He offered a human side to Cactus Jack and Dude Love. And it made money, and it made him money. So, sometimes Vince McMahon
turned the ratings.
It turned the ratings because he was very interesting. He wasn't, Cactus Jack was one-dimensional. Hardcore, go through a table, hit, get a chair to the head. He flies off the apron with his elbow, and that's it. He goes home and, he says, bang, bang. But in WWF, he had range. And that's what I'm trying, And again, Ray.
Mick Foley was one of us versus Cactus Jack. Ain't none of us doing that shit at home.
That's true. And again, with him, again, and I hope Vince McMahon, who is a reflection, we know this, but he has to remember this too, TW, because maybe for Karrion Kross, you gave him this look, you gave him this, the helmet and all this stuff, looking like Lord Humongous. Let Karrion Kross take that and tweak it and do some things where he could be creative and tell a story with that. What say you, TW, about that kind of sentiment?
I agree. I think he needs some more layers, and I just looked at some more pictures. I don't mind the helmet. He's wearing that same metal kilt that the Gladiator wore. I don't like the straps. Other than that, it's not much different. The only thing is it's red. It was all black in NXT, that skirt, and it may be a little bit longer, but it's like a warrior skirt. He looked like a Spartan is what he looked like, but red and black. I don't mind it at all. I think what I was starting to say, and I don't mean Ray per se, I think Ray's pretty fair in his criticism. I don't think he defends all things AEW and rips on all things Vince. But this particular outrage, to me, it's manufactured. It's what it is, and I'm gonna tell you how it is.
Okay.
CM Punk came out Friday night, and he was matched with Becky Lynch, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and Goldberg on Saturday night. So what does everyone do? Oh, CM Punk's better. CM Punk's better. But that's not what the Internet's saying. They're all getting equal talked about. So now they have to bash something, and let's bash Karrion Kross. Because we all know the IWC lives to bury the WWE any and all chances they get. And
absolutely,
this is just one more thing to complain about. So it's called diverting. Because now we ain't talking about Brock, Becky, or John Cena or Goldberg, but we are talking about something that sucks in the WWE. And if this is what you have to pick apart to say it sucks, I'm surprised as I look at the guy laying in the ring dead, I'm surprised they're not bitching that Ricochet job again. Because that's the other darling thing to complain about. They wasted Ricochet.
Give it a minute. Give it a minute. They'll remind you that Ricochet's been...
Holy shit, he wrestled Ricochet? Damn it! And they look like a team based on the picture.
Now, let's put a cherry on top with this opening match. Again, Triple H, you even mentioned it here. He was the blue blood here, and he, of course, he has China here. So he's refining his image. And, of course, a couple of weeks later, he's going to be running with his clique brother, Shawn Michaels, and they're going to change the game of professional wrestling with Generation X. But he needed someone like, Mick Foley, a.k.a. Mankind, to bring out something, because, again, were you keen on the blue blood, from Greenwich, Connecticut? He was okay. He was serviceable. He was a hand, like you would say. But he needed something.
I liked him when he was terrorizing before he was Jean-Paul Levesque.
Get the fuck out of here. What? Terrorizing? You said you like that? You really like that?
I saw him and saw potential.
Okay.
There's another guy who had 87 names in WCW who I saw, and he had potential. And I like to say they both lived up to their potential. You know who the other guy is?
Who?
Master Blaster Steel.
Okay. Kevin Nash?
Yes. Who also was Oz. Who was also just the Master Blaster. Who was also Vinny Vegas. Scott Hall was the Diamond Stud, Gator Scott Hall. And what happened to all these guys? They go to the WWF, where Vince makes fucking stars out of them, and 2 of the 3 go back and make more money than anybody ever made money ever. Except for now, I just read Randy Orton makes $4.5 million a year. Holy shit. How has he not been future endeavored?
I don't know. He must have some kind of evidence against Vince McMahon, or he has the tapes of him, doing
draws.
He's doing some pedophile things maybe that he caught on tape, or he's drinking some children's blood and keeping that young 76-year-old skin. But anyway, neither here nor there. But we just wanted to focus on this great starting match. And also, let's look at the careers of another different match. Goldust and Flying Brian Pillman here. And I almost went loose cannon Brian Pillman, and I was actually a little bit sad when I saw this match, T. And I'll tell you why, because what could have been with Brian Pillman, I mean, he had everything going his way. He took a gamble on himself, and he won. He got the money that he wanted. He got the gimmick that he wanted. He got the creativity and the press. And if it wasn't for the car accident and needing painkillers, we don't know where Brian Pillman's career would have been and the matches that he would have had.
He's the guy, the second I saw him, I think I said this before, he was Lex Luger, but my size. And he was the guy, I got my first pair of boots to look like his boots. He was the guy, I did the springboard clothesline like him. Brian Pillman was my guy. He was the guy that told me I could do it, right? And you know what? Man, you get me all choked up here. There's something at the very end.
I'm choked up. What was that?
He runs after Bret when Bret's leaving. He kissed the title belt, and I thought, man, like he would have been champion at some point. After Shawn was gone, Austin versus Pillman would have been how Owen and Bret feuded after Bret won the belt after fighting before, and after Rick Rude and Warrior feuded for the IC feuded. Austin Pillman would have been the feud. But, yeah, it sucks, man. There's no other way to say it. But I was going to tell you, I forgot about it, but the depressingness of it. First match, China, she gone. Second match, Brian Pillman, he gone. And there's a theme in every match, and it's sad.
It is. Well, we're old. That's one thing, you know.
Yeah, no. These dudes are all like gone for 10 years now, like way too young.
I know, way too young, but we're getting old too. You know, we've been watching this since we were knee high. I'm a wrestling fan for 40 years. I was a baby watching the birth of Hulkamania, but I look at this match too, and again, I was a little choked up like you with Brian Pillman, looking at what could have been in the WWF. The loose cannon, all this stuff would have made a lot of money in my humble, and of course, it was the Attitude Era. He would have been perfect for the Attitude Era. He would have sold it. But then you look at the other person that he's fighting with, Goldust, who debuted in 1995, and the first run of Goldust was magic. You could not top. That's like Star Wars 1. You couldn't top that. That was Rocky 1. But then when you do Rocky 2, the sequel is, it's okay, but it just didn't feel like the first one. And you can see the career of Goldust that he had to tone down what he was doing, the androgynous stuff. He was pushing the boundaries even before it was even allowed. So my question to you, TW, about Goldust is he was actually 3 years too early with the androgyny gimmick, because if he did this in 98 as a first run, could that have been like a future heavyweight champion? Or that could have been a man main eventing maybe WrestleMania or SummerSlams? What say you in your humble opinion?
I absolutely think so, because he had that comeback. That sucker, remember how they would bring back guys for the Royal Rumble and then they'd be gone right away? Two guys weren't. And I think they were in the same Royal Rumble. Mr. Perfect and Goldust came back, and they both stuck around. And then Perfect got fired because of the Brock Kurt Angle fight on the plane. But Goldust, I think he stayed there until he went to AEW. He was there for probably another damn near 10 years or 8-9 years, whatever.
15. He was there in 2000.
More years?
Yeah, he left in 2018.
Right, but when did he come back is what I'm saying. I don't remember when he came back.
2000.
He was in. It had to be after WCW went out of business, because he was zero down there.
He came back in 2002.
Wow. So he was back for 16 years.
Give or take, on and off.
And he obviously turned into a comedy bit towards the end there. But when he came back, he was good again. You know what I mean? And he's another guy. You know what? That's another gimmick people shit on. When he came out with the wig and the robe, and he came out, he was supposed to be the ESPY or whatever. Not the ESPY, but the damn Oscar. He was the Oscar statue. That's what he was.
I don't know. Are we talking about 95 Goldust?
When he came out.
I understand.
Productions.
Right. I understand what you're talking about. I mean, again, when we resonate what we saw in WCW as the natural Dustin Rhodes, we kind of like took a step back.
He was at in WWF first.
He was, yes, he was. And then, everything. But no one cared. So that's why it was like, he had to build his rep in WCW. And then this came out, and this was totally out of left field. I don't think there was resistance. I think there was. No. Let me just say, the way I look at it.
Specifically, but I know.
I'm look. Right. It's not about liking it. There was a curiosity, because it was like, I know this is Dusty Rhodes' son. I know what Dusty Rhodes brought to the table. This is the way I looked at it in 95 for myself. I ain't speaking for everybody else. I wasn't resistant towards it. I was curious to see where he was going to go with this, because to me, of course, I'm very objective, but I wanted to see where he was going, because I knew he was trying to distance himself from Dusty every which way. He did not want to wear polka dots. He did not want to look like the guy from Allen, Texas. He did not want to wear a cowboy hat. He wanted to do something different, and that's why I was more curious, not resistant. Okay, you say a different opinion here.
When he came out as Goldust, 1,000% negativity was they said they're using him to embarrass his father. Just like when Dusty had polka dots, another guy who took a gimmick. That is my favorite version of Dusty Rhodes, is the WWF 2-year run or year run, whatever it was. That's when Dusty Rhodes was like, fuck it, I'm not the booker. I'm going to go out here and have fun. I have the damn figure right above me right now. I like Dusty always. Mm-hmm. Dusty Rhodes in the WWF that 1 year, to me, is the pinnacle of Dusty. It's stress-free Dusty. It's not Dusty putting the belt on himself because he can't trust anybody else to show up with it. He's just there and having a good time. And that's including the shit with Sapphire, which all of it people complained about. But Macho Man and Dusty's feud was awesome. I think he feuded with DiBiase for a minute. That was a good feud. He was just fun to watch. His joy was contagious. I think I've said that very saying on this podcast before. Dustin, he came out. Again, yes, this could be a guy who doesn't want to be in his dad's shadow and go Dustin, Dusty. But Meltzer, this was buried when he came out like that. But then you know what happened? They let his ass talk, and he owned it. He absolutely, my absolute.
A Rhodes owns promos. No matter. No, wait, let me just say this. Hold your thought. Any Rhodes owns a promo. Cody, Dustin, and Dusty, they own a promo when you give them a mic. Go ahead, TW.
Yeah. 2 out of 3, I agree. But Dustin and the Ultimate Warrior, when the Warrior came back, with the Warrior putting his hat on, Marlena's cigar, that segment is, I think that was either before WrestleMania because he ended up fighting Triple H, but it was a Raw or something.
That was a Raw after WrestleMania.
The Warrior goes, how about this for a full-length motion picture? Me kicking your ass from start to finish. And it gives him the stiffest standing clothesline ever. And Dustin was money. He was money. It's literally probably one of my favorite Warrior segments, too. It was just so cool to watch because just like Mick Foley and Kane were built to feud with The Undertaker, Goldust was built to feud with someone like The Ultimate Warrior or Sting or just someone where it's pomp and circumstance. Just him versus just Scott Kahn in the ring. It's nothing, right? You're just relying on his vignettes at that point. But being scared of the Warrior, doing that when he's supposed to be, it just was gold, no pun intended. And I have a Goldust Bendy somewhere around here. I'm going to find that sumbitch. But he went to AEW, so the only figure I can get of that guy is AEW and him looking like half-ass Darth Maul. I want a Goldust figure, damn it.
Well, again, looking at this match here in 1997, TW, everything you just said was about 1995 Goldust. So this is, again, waning down of the Goldust train, and they're kind of like, I guess maybe with standards and practices, they just they scale back Goldust's potential. And even with his ex-wife here, Marlena, even though they beat Brian Pillman no matter what, Goldust is, stock, I don't want to use stock, just was a little bit meh to me. Right. It went down a little bit.
Sure.
And
the business was changing, and he probably was looked at as the cartoon character and something they had to purge.
Right.
He went and reinvented himself.
No, he reinvented himself in the 2000s. But like I said, if that character in 95 came out in 98 at the cusp of the Attitude Era, everything could have changed for at least Goldust's career. He was just too early.
I'll be the devil's advocate. I think it wouldn't, because I think the whole point of the Attitude Era was reality TV, and he would have looked not reality. If he debuted right now, the way dudes dress these days, he'd be over huge. He'd be a babyface. So it's really a sign of the times. Dudes dress like that now in public. I watched a dude the other day, full beard, no man bun. I'm sure it was just an off day, but normally probably was, in a fucking dress like Little Bo Peep, just in the middle of Hot Topic. And I was like, God bless you. Because I'm telling you, when I was a kid, someone was like that in the mall, they're getting beat up. And that's sad. I'm not saying you should beat somebody up, but 2020 Wonder is a whole lot different than 1995. 1995, a dude with a beard and a Little Bo Peep dress is turning some heads, and not for the right reasons.
You know why he didn't get beat up? He had a MAGA hat on. You missed it when you saw it.
That dude absolutely hates Trump. There's no doubt in my mind. He don't even have to tell me.
See, now you're stereotyping. You never know if that Mary Poppins looking motherfucker was a MAGA endorser.
Mary Poppins looks like a damn Quaker. Little Pete looks like a Southern Belle, damn it.
Now let's try to put all this in a bubble here, because in 1997, the hot faction before DX was created was actually the Hart Foundation with Bret Hart, with British Bulldog, Owen Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and of course Flying Brian. We talked about Flying Brian a little bit here, but in SummerSlam, certain members of the Hart Foundation are in very high-profile situations, if you will, Reflectionites. Let's talk about one of those situations here. British Bulldog and Ken Shamrock. Now, you know, WWF or WWE, whatever you want to call it, TW, made a lot of press because they signed a UFC guy. And he was already billed by ABCs as the world's most dangerous man. You know, this is when UFC was not sports entertainment light, so to speak. This was when people
no weight
classes and tried to kill you. And, you know, you made money by somebody. It was the human cockfight. And Ken Shamrock, people like Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn were the pillars of the UFC back in the mid-90s.
That was the feud. That was the Sean Brett.
Yeah, that was the Sean and Brett in UFC. So they tried to capitalize Ken Shamrock's, you know, press releases, Reflectionites, and brought him as a coup to the WWF. I guess you could say it was the bidding wars, and WWF, you know, Vince McMahon had to pay people. You know, when you lose Hogan, you lose Hall, you lose Nash, you lose Six, you lose all these guys, you got to I'm not saying overpay people, but you got to give them guaranteed money. Like you said, Hall and Nash made sure that people got paid, and Ken Shamrock was one of those people that got paid, along with himself and Mark Merrill and all that stuff. So he gets a chance to fight for the European Championship here against the British Bulldog. We already know the pedigree of the British Bulldog, TW. We know what he can offer in that ring. My question here is Ken Shamrock. He has all that momentum from the press release from ABC. He has all that momentum coming out of WrestleMania, belly-to-belly suplexing Bret the Hitman Hart. He already has that in his arsenal. And, you know, the first couple of months, I'm not going to say he was green, but I think he was very robotic. He had his 3 moves that he knew to do and when to do it. But 98, 99, he was a little bit better technically. But something was missing. And, you know, it just didn't click in the WWF for him until he left and became a TNA champion. We don't have to go into his career. But he had all that momentum, but he just didn't hone that craft. Do you see it a different way?
I absolutely see it a different way, and I've said this on this show many, many times. The 2 loudest pops I've ever heard in my life that weren't someone who became world champion are Razor Ramon and Ken Shamrock. The pop that Ken Shamrock got when he came out and when he did the shoot stuff, right? That suplex he gave Bret Hart, I was there. I felt that audience react to that suplex. When he did in the ring, he just walks at the end of this match. He's got the dog food. Like, again, another guy getting lemons. He's in a dog food eating match with Bulldog, right? Who wants that? But Bulldog's a badass dude. He's another guy who, as I watch it, by the way, 3rd match in, 3rd death, bing, Bulldog. So when I'm watching Bulldog, I'm thinking this is after he won the belt from Bret at SummerSlam at Wembley. And he's still having good matches. I don't know why he can't pull his knee pads up. I hated the Bulldog version with the jeans that just had an action figure come out with Boss Man, the dog kennel match. But Ken Shamrock looks like $1 million. And when he's walking around the ring, the crowd's kind of quiet, and then he lets out this war cry, and the place erupted. That guy, yes. Was he ever Bret Hart? Absolutely not. But did he look the part? Did he act the part? I agree. I just think he's Dean Malenko. He could not talk and he still can't. I just saw him on Impact not long ago, and it was god-awful then, too. It was damn near Rick Martel, AWA awful, right? So,
but he knows his role, especially after this pump.
When he was a heel in the corporation, wasn't he in the corporation or was he in the ministry? Perfect role for him. He didn't have to talk. Just go out there and kick people's asses. I didn't like Steve Blackman. Now, he's someone where I think he just never – and he was over. People liked Steve Blackman. I didn't. I didn't get it. I still don't get it. You throw a guy in the ring and he does some karate shit and people in the IWC, YWC like it. I don't. But Shamrock, also fun fact, he was a wrestler before doing UFC. He just never made it. He did jobs. He was an indie wrestler, and then UFC caught on, and he did well at it, and he made a name for himself there. And he actually went back and did UFC. I think he got beat by Tito Ortiz about 3 months in a row before coming back to TNA. But speaking of TNA, that guy that was from MMA that was on Impact, he's now on AEW, isn't he?
Which one you talking about?
Is that Junior Dos Santos and some other guy? That old white dude. He talks on the microphone.
I know Junior. I don't remember his name, but Junior Dos Santos made an appearance. I don't know if he was in TNA. The only people in TNA that I remember was
the old white dude was the guy talking for everybody at TNA when
Dan
Force in it. Yeah, that guy. He was there. AEW when I watched it last week.
He loves wrestling. He just loves the business of wrestling.
He's an asshole too. He's a shit talker. He did all right.
He knows his role. And you put a check mark on people's deaths. There's another death in this match here too, TW, and you forgot to check mark it here. The European Championship.
Yes.
What a potential title. I mean,
actually thought that should be the secondary belt, and I just thought this when I was watching it yesterday. NXT UK, when you say NXT UK champion, it makes their belt seem like the North American Championship in NXT. Like NXT champ is the guy, and then we have North American and then an NXT UK. When the reality is it's NXT champion, NXT UK champion. They need a secondary belt. They might have one. I don't know. But they should make it the European Championship. And I know that sounds redundant with UK.
It's a cup. It's a cup they have as a secondary title.
But we have the North American champion in NXT here. They should have the European Championship there. Bring it back. Make it different, But they need their IC belt, which is the working man's belt. Still can't believe Walter was champion for 800 days. He's another one I don't get. And he is the best. He's the best in the world with a bad gimmick. Bad look, bad everything. He's just a stiff prick. He's like the German wrestlers who just beat people up for real.
Best in the world in the ring.
Him for that belt is lost on me. I don't know. How do you have a guy smaller than Johnny Gargano beat your champion who's been champion? He must be going to the main roster. He
probably is, but we don't know. But again, you have to watch NXT UK to understand that, and I don't watch it. But anyway, TW, let's put a ribbon on this. Again, like I said, Ken Shamrock was a little green in this match. Again, British Bulldog had to lead him. What say you about Ken Shamrock? Did he listen well in Tommy Wonder's humble opinion?
I think he did, because I actually thought to myself, Bulldog's doing good here. And obviously, you have to curb your enthusiasm and lower the bar because it's Ken Shamrock. It's like everybody's not Kurt Angle.
Right.
Just take to it like a fish out of water, fish to water. But I think this match was good, and I thought I focused on Davey Boy really because he's the general here. He's the guy calling everything. He's the heel. He's doing the cutoffs. He's doing everything else. I don't really remember how it ended. I remember them being outside and the dog food being there and all that stuff. But by the way, the Pillman Goldust match, as I'm watching it, I half-assed remember Pillman wearing a dress. But I also remember him winning and having Marlena for a month, and then the day that he was giving her back is the day they found him dead. So that was weighing on my mind. It was like, Bret's 2 months away from being gone, and Pillman's 2 months away from being dead. And it's just sad. And I have a question I'll wait till the end match because it's more pertaining to that. But Shamrock and Bulldog was good. It was as good as it could have been, right? It's not going to steal the show, but I wouldn't doubt if somebody went there as a Shamrock fan and left happy. He didn't embarrass himself. He didn't make you embarrassed to be a Shamrock fan. And I literally just kept focused on Davey Boy and going, I don't think he's high. I think he's taking his shit serious and he's working.
Could be. Yeah, that's why I said it was a very intriguing match nonetheless. But let's focus on those co-main events of SummerSlam 1997. And, of course, we got to talk about the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship match between Stone Cold Steve Austin and, well, he's not the Rocket Owen Hart. He's just Owen Hart here. Blackheart, he's not even King of Hearts. Thank you very much. That's why you need a partner to bounce off Reflection Nights. But anyway, this was already set up.
Do I have to do the tally?
No, not the tally yet.
You skipped the match. The 10-man tag match that was only 8.
I'm only talking about
The death toll.
Oh, we ain't talking about that. No, there's more death toll. I get you. But we don't need to. Let's try to talk about happy. Well, I can't even talk about happy times. There's another death toll here. But anyway, we got to talk about this because this was a ready-made match because of Canadian Stampede. Owen Hart pinned Stone Cold Steve Austin in Canada, which set up this match at SummerSlam 1997 TW. Stone Cold was over. We know this. Again, the double turn where he turned babyface, even though he almost hated to be a babyface, and he still did heelish things, but the crowd ate it up. They loved him. Austin 316 shirts were flying off the shelves, and this match happened, and everything almost came to a standstill with the Tombstone Piledriver TW that almost took out WWF. It could have put him out of business if Stone Cold Steve Austin doesn't recover and is paralyzed for the rest of his life. What say you about this match? Hindsight thinking too.
This is how I knew I didn't watch this before, because it's an absolutely awesome match until that. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I always thought it was on regular TV, and I always thought it was quick. I didn't realize.
Oh, you know why you thought it was quick? Because you saw it on Raw. They always gave you the pre-tapes.
But the reason it was so hard to watch is because it was almost like they jinxed him. Because the entire thing, it wasn't if he lost to Owen Hart, he had to kiss his ass. It was if he didn't win the belt. So Owen getting disqualified, which was likely because of the Hart Foundation. Owen getting counted out because he ran out of the ring, but Austin went and got him and goes, not on my watch, brought him back. Everything about it, Austin had to win it. So now, 24 years later, I now understand why he rolled him up and pinned him, because if he didn't, someone would have been waiting for him to kiss Owen's ass in the middle of the ring, and if he didn't, this bullshit, false advertising. And it was a horrendous pin. It was hard to watch. It was sad. And even though it's 24 years later and I know the guy's alive and well, I'm watching it and seeing him and just thinking, how the fuck is no one checking on him? The referee's checking. Owen knows because he tells Owen, I can't feel myself, because I've heard interviews. Owen looks at him like shit. And then Owen, being the professional, goes to the crowd and says, now he's going to kiss my ass, like he's stalling. And then keeps checking. I'm like, dude, is he all right? And you see him shaking his fingers. It's scary. And as someone who broke his neck in the ring, you have no fucking clue where you're at. So for him to know, to tell Owen, because he's scared, that's heartbreaking, man. That is absolutely heartbreaking. Because when it happened to me, the concussion was so severe, I had no idea that I hurt myself. I just kept wrestling. I had no clue till I got in the back. And then when everybody came and checked on me in the back, I'm watching it, and it's like literally if I would have watched that live, I think I would have had tears, because it's scary looking. Like, you don't realize it. And I didn't look at the replay on purpose, because I know it's in my mental picture. It is burned in my – if you watch that replay where they do the camera angle where Austin's back is dead center, you see every one of his vertebrae compress. You see the lines in his back.
Right.
And it's absolutely – and he fucking kills him with it. Like, it's not even like it was just it was an accident for certain.
Of course.
But he pile drives him. It's not like Mick Foley does a pile driver to Triple H earlier on, where he does a sit down, like kind of like the wedgie, which was owed to Terry Funk because that was his move. And it's stiff. But because Foley's much bigger than Owen Hart in the ass, Triple H never hit the fucking mat.
He's cushioned. His ass cushioned his head.
Right. And Owen does a straight up Paul Orndorff regular pile driver, but with the tombstone. Luckily, he didn't do knees, because he would have been done then. I've seen Undertaker hit guys, and luckily the momentum was going forward. So when his head hit, at least he was going that way. If Owen would have hit Austin like that with his knees, because Owen didn't hit first. Austin's head hit first. That's what did it.
Right.
Because his head was all the way down between his legs, and it's scary, man. And like my neck's hurting just talking about it. But to know that there was a good 3 minutes, were probably the longest 3 minutes of Stone Cold Steve Austin's life, where no one's helping him. And then they're helping his ass up, and he's so determined, God bless him for it, to hold that fucking belt up, and then he just throws it down. And then when he fell down to roll out of the ring, you see him stop.
But let me just say this.
Go no more.
But as a fan who doesn't know what's going on right now, maybe they think it's part of the show. Right. That image of him doing, even trying anything, it made him look tough, and the legacy of the Stone Cold character even that much more badass that he finished the match. And of course, that's the tradition of professional wrestling. You try to finish the match any way you can. 2, if this was a house show, I think what you're saying, everybody would have ran. They're stopping it. Yeah. They would have just stopped it. But it's a pay-per-view. Money's on the line. Vince McMahon is panicking in gorilla position. He's
commentating.
Yeah, well, whoever's in gorilla, anybody else in the gorilla position, they're panicking. Oh, I'm Briscoe. Briscoe is panicking in the gorilla position because he's back there. Patterson's panicking in the gorilla position because he knows something's wrong here. Again, the match could have been better, but it stuck to a halt, and we know why. So what say you before the match? Because, thinking about this right now, this is hindsight. Let's just go hindsight here. If that spot never happened, Owen Hart, we could have had a few going all the way to Survivor Series between Owen Hart, maybe even Royal Rumble 98. Maybe the trajectory of, we understand the trajectory of Stone Cold was to the heavyweight title, but would have gotten to Mania 98 against Shawn Michaels, or would have they tried to finish off Owen Hart against Austin?
They knew they were putting the belt on Austin
no matter what.
No matter what. Mm-hmm. And they put that IC belt on him just to do the hierarchy. You IC champ, and you were world champion. Bret did it. Macho Man did it. Shawn did it. Rock probably did it after Austin did it. Mm-hmm. It's just the way it went. And all my life, for 23 years, I never understood why Austin still rolled him up for that pin. Like, why didn't it? But after watching it and the entire match, they talk about him having neck problems. So it's just like foreshadowed, right? And it shortened his career, that's for damn sure. And the fact that he was back in time to have that match with Austin versus Austin Michaels, the fact that he came back for that, I'm sure that's why he ended up missing 13 months with the surgery. But damn, like, dude, you watch that even today, and you just look at him, ain't nothing moving from the nipples down. It's just and it might be shoulder down, and this is just moving because he's moving his arms, but he's barely moving them. He's just laying there staring at the lights going, I can't move. And then if you see, his feet are just dragging. He ends up getting feeling back, but they're just dragging, and it's like, wow. So, at least they had the wherewithal to end it. And at least, I don't know if it was Austin said, I'm going to roll you up, or if Owen told the referee, tell him to roll me up, because Owen went down for the pin like he knew it was coming. But it's just, anybody who would complain about that damn pin now is an asshole, because
no one complained about that. I think we applauded Austin and
for sure,
and Owen.
But I just, all my life when I watch, I'm like, just fucking end the match. Like, put the belt on him another time. But when you watch the match, it kills his character if he's got to kiss his ass. And he doesn't kick his ass, and it kills his integrity because he's the one that said he'd do it.
Again, there's a lot of hindsight here. Let's play the devil's advocate, and then we'll go to the main event, TW. You're Stone Cold Steve Austin. The hindsight is you already know you're going to become a Hall of Famer. You're going to have your own podcast. You're going to have a Legends contract where Vince McMahon's going to pay you exorbitant amounts of money and all this stuff, all this prestige, all this accolades, all this legacy. But if I ask you a question, would you take that piledriver again? Would you do it? To know what you're going to get.
Like, same result?
Yeah.
You have to.
You
ever see Mr. Destiny?
No, I never saw Mr. Destiny.
Jim Belushi, it's a great movie. He strikes out in the high school state championships. They lose. He ends up being a ham and egger, eating at the deli, and nobody knows his name. His wife and him, they're just poor, whatever. And then Mr. Destiny gives him a wish that he hit the game-winning home run, and then he wakes up. He's married to the owner of the company that he was working for before he got this wish. His ex-wife, or his wife, they don't even know each other because he never met her because he was never a ham and egger. He's engaged to the owner's daughter, and he wishes he could do it all over again and go back and strike out because he liked his life better than what he dreamed it was going to be if he hit the home run. And it's actually back when movies actually had a damn story, something to learn from it, to take away from it. No, not just a plot, but like something to make you think about your own life. Like, we spend so much time wishing we did something different. Well, that means we have a different life. So think of everything like I say all the time, the first girl that broke my heart, I would still be with her today. I'm absolutely 100% certain I was never leaving her. However, her leaving me is the reason my 3 kids exist. So would I go back and ask her to not leave me? Absolutely not, because then my kids wouldn't exist. So all those things that we thought would kill us put us on a different path, and our life turns out the way it should be. I would think inevitably, if there was a way that her and I could have my same 3 kids, yes, I would do it. But they wouldn't, because they're half their mom, they're half me. She has a kid with her dude who looks just like her, but a boy. Like, he's just a cute little bastard. But anyway, the point is, I don't think I'd go back and do anything different in my life. I got hit by a car and knocked my teeth out. Half of my friendships were made because of my not being able to smile because of my teeth. And then I got my teeth fixed. And then all of a sudden, the Tommy Wonder you know and love today existed. But I had to be a recluse and antisocial and all that other stuff to become what I eventually became, the social butterfly that I am now. I wouldn't be anywhere near like I am now if I hadn't gone through the other stuff first. So, yeah, I think he takes that pile driver 10 out of 10 times.
That's, again, everybody has a devil's advocate answer, and everybody's is different. That's why I'm just saying it's a very interesting devil's advocate question for Stone Cold Steve Austin. Would he take that pile driver again, even though you know what your future is going to be? But anyway, let's get into this main event here. And, of course, we got Bret Hart looking to become a 5-time WWF Heavyweight Champion, challenging The Undertaker. Undertaker wins WrestleMania 13 by beating Psycho Sid, and it's the era of the dead man, TW. Whether it's a successful era of the dead man, that's debatable. Again, if you're comparing Nitro ratings to Raw ratings, then you blame it on the heavyweight champion, as the rule says. So you need to, change it up. You need to switch things up, as Vince McMahon had no choice to do. So again, Bret Hart wins his 5th title reign. But of course, there's a lot of caveats here. And of course, the special guest referee or enforcer, whatever you want to call it, is the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, which at this point in time, he lost his smile, got it back. He's not full-fledged babyface. He's a tweener that does heelish things. So TW, looking at this match, this had the longest time here. It got the most time because it is the main event. And Bret Hart, the excellence of execution, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Bret Hart is like AJ Styles. He adapts to the person he fights. And this is Undertaker's greatest match not at this point in time before Shawn Michaels. But you know what I'm saying? Because in the era of the 90s, Undertaker was relegated to fighting the big man, and we never got to see Undertaker's technical prowess. So for 90s purposes, this was his best match of the decade. What say you about this whole match, the ending, and all that stuff?
Absolutely. And one of the things, I'm going to take it back to when I was wrestling, I always felt small, right? And Rico was even smaller than me. And then this guy comes around. His name's Tommy Starr. He's from Florida. He also wrestles as the Death Dealer. He's pretty over. Ended up working for ICP's Stranglemania tours and stuff. And he was bigger than us, but not much, right? He had a better build. He looked like, but he was haggard. But anyways, he was bigger than us, and especially as the Death Dealer, because he basically, do you remember Al Snow as Shinobi? He just wore complete like
he was a ninja.
Right, and he had a mask. So he wrestles like that, and it was Rico's first match in BCW that wasn't against me. They had already put me in tag teams, and Rico's wrestling Death Dealer, and I'm sitting out in the audience, and I watched him, and I thought, you know what? We're not that much smaller than these guys. And I told Rico, I go, you know what? I go, you didn't look small. He's like, is that a good thing? And I go, yeah. I always felt like me and you were like little kids in there with everybody else. I said, but you look like he was just the guy who was bigger and you were the smaller guy, but you look like you could take him, that kind of thing. And to watch Bret Hart in this match, think about, this is 97, think of 10 years earlier, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart are a tag team. Shawn and Marty are a tag team. Tully and Arn are a tag team. All these tag teams, most of them were smaller guys that weren't, but the reality is they're not any smaller than Macho Man. They're not any smaller than Ric Flair. But because of Hulk Hogan and John Studd and King Kong Bundy and Andre the Giant,
larger than life.
All these bigger than guys, I don't know if you remember, I think Bret and Neidhart did something to Hogan, kind of like when they held Macho Man for Honky Tonk Man to hit him with the guitar. But I remember Bret just looking little next to Hulk Hogan. And I would guess 10 years later, Bret's probably bigger in 97 than he was in 87. But Undertaker's one of them larger-than-life dudes, right? And I think Undertaker's on the small side here compared to his normal look. And he's wearing that all black, so that makes him look smaller. But Bret Hart, going back, not 10 years, 6 years, because he came out in 90, 91, people were cowering to The Undertaker. Guys Bret size, Shawn, whatever. But Bret Hart against Undertaker did not look unbelievable. It didn't look like it should just be a squash match where the big guy beats the shit out of the little guy, like Rey Mysterio versus Kevin Nash. And even Bret versus Kevin Nash, because Kevin Nash is, I think, bigger than Undertaker, same height, but bigger.
By an inch, you could say, literally.
Bret and Diesel didn't look like Bret shouldn't be in there. So I think Bret and Shawn, I think they did way more for the business than they even already get credit for doing, because they showed that a dude their size could be in there with the guy Hogan's size, whereas the old mentality was Undertaker was whooping his ass, and that's that. And he did it. And that finish of that match is so beautiful. And Jerry Lawler, I just said this last week, I'd never been a Lawler fan. 2 different times on this pay-per-view, Jerry Lawler covered for mistakes, right? One, Todd Pettengill didn't tell the person on the phone that even if you don't win the car, you're getting a $5,000 bond. And Jerry Lawler goes, he didn't even tell that guy he's just a $5,000 bond. So the very next call, Todd Pettengill told that lady she got a $5,000 bond. But that was Lawler, either because Vince said something or whatever. And then when Michaels counted the pin for Bret, a layman just watching it would think, why would Shawn count it? He just spit in his face. But it was Lawler who said, here's Shawn reluctantly counting the count, because if he doesn't, he too is gone. Because Bret said if he didn't win, he was not wrestling in the States. And Shawn said if he showed favoritism to Undertaker, he wouldn't wrestle in the States. So when Bret pinned him, he did, oh shit, and he counted it and then rolled out of there. And it was modern art is what it was, because that
if you was confused in the arena, it was explained beautifully on pay-per-view by Lawler. Yeah. Go ahead, Tila.
Because why would you still count it? How many referees refused to count because a guy just hit him or spit on him? But Shawn had to, because of his. It was ballet, man. Everything led to something, and again, that superplex I mentioned earlier, Undertaker was like, I'm not ready, and then just plunked back down on the turnbuckle.
Well, let me just say this. Give credit where credit is due, not only with Vince McMahon, but Pat Patterson and Briscoe giving those kind of finishes.
Instructions to do that, too. I was actually going to ask you a question. I'm watching Bret and Undertaker in there, and the whole time I'm like, man, like, why did my whole life I think he was too small to be in there with guys like that? Because Undertaker's bigger than Hogan. So that means Bret and Hogan, they did end up wrestling each other in WCW, didn't they?
In like tag team situations, it wasn't one-on-one.
They didn't wrestle one-on-one, so they never wrestled one-on-one. And I thought for some reason he did wrestle. I didn't watch a lot of WCW because, I was, again, same reason with AEW. Be the alternative. By all means, go out there, beat them in the ratings, but don't be bitches about it. That's the problem I have, is when they're actively shitting on them while doing it. I don't like that. It's tacky to me. Again, you don't ever see Burger King in a McDonald's commercial. I don't like it. But to give Pat Patterson, and like for me, this is funny because I've always thought agents were unnecessary because I never had one. I just wrestled, and me and the guy I wrestled put together the match, and we went out there. Someone told us, hey, you're going over. I'm like, how you want me to go over? Clean. And then we decided how we were ending the match, right?
Okay.
And if I liked the guy, even though I went over clean, I didn't bury him. because it doesn't do me any good to have him be buried because then it doesn't look as impressive for me to win.
But you had to make sense, though.
But it had to make sense. And then it makes sense for us to wrestle each other again if I beat him clean. So I had no problem winning with small packages or inside cradles or something like that, and not my finisher. Have him kick out of my finisher and then do whatever. But here's where I decided I'm wrong. And I should have done this a long time ago. I'm watching this match. I'm knowing this finish was called by Pat Patterson. There's no doubt in my mind. If it wasn't Pat Patterson, then God bless it. Whoever did call it deserves some credit, and someone needs to tell whoever came up with that finish. It was an awesome finish. It made perfect sense. It steered Undertaker towards Michaels and got Bret, off of there, even though they...
It could have been. I think it's Pat Patterson with the wrestling finish. But, of course, If Vince Russo had something, I don't think he called the match itself, but Vince Russo is writing the story for this too. So
Sean saying that I got to quit too and all that. Because all that stuff felt too unnecessary. Just like I said to you, was it you that told me you thought the other way when it was Travis. When Roman Reigns said he would leave the WWE if he didn't beat John Cena, I thought they did that as a swerve and that Cena was winning. Because I thought they were putting that belt on him. So okay, you want to leave? We're putting the belt on John Cena.
I thought it was stupid. It was too predictable when he said that.
That's what I mean. When he said that, you knew Roman was winning. But that's why I thought it was the other way. I thought they were going the other way with it because he's a heel. He can be like, I didn't mean that, and not leave because it wasn't a stipulation. It was his own. Like Miley Cyrus still lives in the U.S. She said if Trump won, she's moving to Canada. She didn't. Right? So I thought it was going to be somewhere along there. But I also just found out Cena's already done because he's already making another movie. So it was a one-off. They would have had to put the belt on him and have him lose it to Roman at SummerSlam in order for him to do something as a program. But anyways, here's where Pat Patterson gets credit. One of the greatest matches, at least for Hulk Hogan, in my opinion. Still, the best match he ever had was when he pinned Ted DiBiase with a small package on Saturday Night's Main Event. One of the best matches he ever had was versus the Ultimate Warrior in Toronto. WrestleMania 7 or 6, whatever it was.
6.
WrestleMania 6. That match is gold. It's probably not perfect, but again, dance with the one that brung you. Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, no one's accusing them of having an Iron Man match like Bret and Shawn. They had an awesome match. The crowd's here for all of it. They're split. Half of them like Hogan, half of them like Warrior, and it worked out. And then go watch Halloween Havoc. I refuse to admit that match ever happened. I don't know who booked it. It's terrible.
Hogan.
The finish is terrible. The botching of the fire is terrible. All of it's garbage. And all you have to do is say, these guys wrestled 2 times. One of them is literally Hogan's masterpiece. The other one, no one in their right mind would ever watch it twice. Ever. There's not even a don't do this because everything about it. No. I didn't see that match for the first time until about 6 years after it happened. I didn't even know it happened. My buddy's like, you didn't see it?
But we did a show about it. No. We did a show about it.
And I think I did watch it the second time for that. But good Lord, is it that bad? And so my point was, I always felt like agents was just Vince giving dudes jobs because they couldn't wrestle anymore, right? Like, just to sit under the knowledge tree or the learning tree. But no. Some of these agents, Dean Malenko is highly credited. Or is it Fit Finley for the women?
Fit.
But didn't Dean do the women too? Wasn't he an agent for the women in the beginning, or was he the cruiserweight guy?
He could have been. No, he could have been. He multitasked.
Yeah.
No, Fit was with the women mostly, but Dean probably
Tori Wilson and Vito and Trish and all them. But I want to say somehow Dean Malenko had a hand in it too. But Fit gets all the credit for it. But
who knows?
It's awesome that someone's there to help people because all you need is someone wanting to get better, and then you've got the person there to help them. Terry Taylor helps people. Like I said, I wish I could remember who it was. He said, don't fight the system. Because if you fight the system, I make all the jokes about the IWC, YWC. Again.
They're jokes? I thought it was the truth.
Well, it's most of the funny things are funny because they're true. But my point is, I don't fault them for liking what they like. It's just like this fucking flu vaccine. Get it. Don't shit on people who don't want to get it. You do you and let someone else do them. So, Travis and I get in arguments all the time because he's like, dude, do you ever criticize WWE? And I said, no, because I don't watch it. Unlike the people who swear they don't watch it but know every single thing that happens on it and write it on the Hustle page, I do not watch Raw or SmackDown. I watch NXT, and I watch it less and less and less. Now that I'm on cable, I got that, thanks to you, I got that little secret way to watch it. But at the end of the day, I don't critique it because I don't watch it. Because you know why, Professor? It ain't booked for me. It's not. I watch the pay-per-views, and again, how many times have you watched every single week of Raw, and then you get to the pay-per-view, and you're furious because they keep playing the damn recap videos over and over again, and you're like, I already know, bitch. I've been watching for 3 months. Now they make sense. They let me know what's going on, and then I watch it. So I like the pay-per-views. Are they all good? No. I think every NXT takeover, with few exceptions, and the exceptions are some of the last few, where they had just matches on there that could have just been on regular NXT, whereas it used to not be that way. It was 4 matches that were blow-off matches or debuts, and they all blew the roof off of there. Now you throw these girl tag team #1 contenders matches on it. No. That's not what TakeOver's for. That's what the weekly show is for. The actual tag belts. If I had
they changed it.
Every TakeOver would just be the titles being defended. It should be they should be TakeOver Night of Champions 1 through 36, because that's the payoff for it, right? So, but to round it all out, Pat Patterson, whoever booked this finish for this match, and the fact that Shawn does this no look, and by the way, not only the Undertaker, Ken Shamrock, and Ken Shamrock made a career out of taking chairs to the head. Like, he didn't put his hands up. He took it straight to the head. He took one in this match. Undertaker took a full swing from Shawn Michaels to the head, just crumbled. I'm like, that's probably half legit, knocked out, right? So then Bret just drags him over. But also in this match, Bulldog Davey Boy hits Shamrock with the legs. He's swinging the seats and hitting him with the legs. You know who does that? Asshole, stiff guy. That's how they do it in England. In Europe, they hit with the hard side because people think it's fake when you hit that popping noise from hitting the back. P.S. That shit hurts too, but it don't hurt like the legs. The legs, like you hit your elbow on something, that's what it feels like when them things are hitting you. They're rods hitting you in the back instead of a flat piece of metal. But Shamrock earned his stripes in this match, in his show.
And Shawn Michaels, and again, like you said, Pat Patterson. I think it's Pat Patterson who booked the finish. Of course, Russo had to do the story writing for all this to make sense. And, of course, Jerry the King Lawler was the cleaner to make all the sense in the world in this pay-per-view. And it ended with Bret Hart being 5-time WWE champion. And, again, let's put a cherry on top of this, TW. The business would change a little bit. Austin would be off, from wrestling, but he was, committed, even though, he was stubborn, hard-headed, and all this stuff, because I think Vince McMahon told him, you got to rest. You got to be home and rest. And he's refused, the old out of sight, out of mind mentality. He forced himself to be on the road, at least on Raw tapings. So this way, no one forgot about him. No one forgot about him. And they put him in situations that would protect his neck, and it was less physical. So WWF was saved because of Stone Cold's selflessness. Yep. And again, a couple of months prior to November and Survivor Series, this would be the swan song for Bret the Hitman Hart. And again, I'm watching ECW, and of course they already blew they blew it out the water with the secret, like Bret Hart's going to be in WCW. Like, oh shit, they got him too. And TW, what say you? Just put a cherry on top with all this. And even
there's one more thing that happens in this match that's kind of timely because of what happened a couple of weeks ago with Matt Cardona, otherwise known as Zack Ryder. They littered the ring. Bret Hart won. They littered the ring. And then I had a question for you. Where's Neidhart? Neidhart's not there.
He's in catering.
It's only Bulldog, Owen, and Pillman were out there with Bret.
Well, Neidhart had to be the sacrificial lamb. He's the Raw guy. He wrestles on Raw. His value kind of waned after the Canadian Stampede pay-per-view because everybody
was a week ago.
That wasn't a week. It was a month ago. But anyway, he's relegated to Raw matches and all that stuff. That was his value within the Hart Foundation. I have to be honest with you on that one. So you know.
I didn't know they weren't on the same show together.
No, they weren't. Not all the time.
There's an awesome picture of the 5 of them with a Canadian flag behind, all wearing those leather jackets.
No. They're all together on Raw doing the promos, but when it's fighting, you know, some people have the night off, and like Neidhart probably was fighting Raw a little bit more or a little bit less, but his value was
the Raw. He was the Raw worker, and they were the.
Or he could have been the shotgun Saturday night worker. You could say like that.
Why didn't he get a match? I mean, why wasn't he out there with them? He wasn't out there.
The rules stated that he was, you know, any Hart Foundation member in his corner would be barred, or Bret Hart would have lost, had to vacate the title.
But the other ones came out eventually, and no Neidhart. Neidhart was never on this show.
Well, maybe snorting the cocaine. I don't know. Who knows?
Natalia.
I apologize to Natalia for making that, you know, blasphemous joke. It was just out of humor, but I might be right, Natalia. You might, you know, I can't say I'm wrong on that. You know, I can either confirm or deny that allegedly that I'm saying this. But anyway, we end this episode, the episodic episode of the PWR Podcast here at the PWR Networks at piledriver.com. It was great to have the SummerSlam hangover, and now we enter the month of September. You know, we'll see what we're going to do, Reflection Nights. Of course, I'm going to keep you on your toes. Spotlights, rivalries, episodic episodes, who knows? But stay tuned, Reflection Nights, stay tuned. And TW, do you have the socials ready? Is it erased? I don't know. Oh, thank God. Please give out those socials.
I erased ours somehow. The PW Reflection.
Okay.
At PW Reflection is ours on the Twitter. Mm-hmm. Mine, at Tommy Wonder 19, is my oldest one where politics are talked. At the Tommy Wonder is where I do more of my modern pop culture references. Facebook.com/Tommy Wonder. I'm 1 week into a 30-day ban, so I ain't on there. And then JB is at the P1JB. And then our good man Big Ray, at Big Ray Hernandez, who's still fired up about our good man Karrion Kross's new look. And I'm going to give Travis Volts a shout out. Please, maybe you guys can tweet him and make him feel relevant on Twitter, because he got mad one time. He had more followers than me, and he talked smack, and I said, okay, watch this. And then I like quadrupled his followers because I gave it some effort. But at Nuts and Bolts PW, and that's VOELTZ for Bolts, not VOLTS. That's his shoot last name, Travis Volts. Mm-hmm. And then the Dum Dum Duel and an Idiot on YouTube. They just put up another video without me of trying to eat the Little Caesars lunch combo in under 8 minutes. It's 4 slices of square pizza and a soda. And then our good man Big Vito and his wife, they do the BigVitoBrand.wixsite.com and Patreon.com/the Big Vito Brand.
And you know what? For the Reflection Nights and the Magnificent 7 Elite 8, I know that when this episode hits, it is his birthday week. So happy birthday to Reflection Night member Greenpeace 420. Happy birthday, Greenpeace. And you can find me on my Twitter at PWHustle, PROF. That's PWHustleProf. Also look for us on the PWHustle YouTube networks. Also look for my guys, the king of the reactions, 8-Track Brown at 8-Track Dastardly, and of course the man with the documents, the man who has video evidence of Biden and Trump laughing at all American citizens right now for everything that's going on in the world today. You can find him on his Twitter at OB1 You Know Me. And for that, I'm the professor. That's Mr. Dum Dum Duo, the Iron Stomach One himself, Mr. Wonderful Tommy Wonder, saying good night, and we will see you next time here at the PWR Podcast at the PWR Networks at podbeam.com. Peace. Are you sneezing? My goodness. Oh, okay. That sounded like an analogy. But good night, Reflection Nights.
Good night.
Simply en fuego.